Sonic soundtracks don't often sync up musical cues with in-game events, but Sonic CD is a next-level game. In Collision Chaos, if you beeline it to the Amy cutscene, this flurry of triplets kicks in while Metal Sonic dashes away, which slides us right into the lead melody, and instead of setting the foundation at the 1, it confidently descends from the sky with a vibrant 5-4-3. This bold entrance is a great early impression of Sonic CD's one-of-a-kind personality. The game pushes the limits of level design complexity, surreal color schemes, and of course a level of music polish that was never possible in previous games. One cool surprise is that Collision Chaos is Spring Yard Zone, reimagined in the present, past, and futures, but with a hip, futuristic twist. Take Sonic 1's Rosa Springs and juice them up with the neon barrage of Shibuya streets. The soundtrack sought to reach the cutting edge of cool, drawing influence from New Jack Swing music. This genre emerged in the late 80s in New York City's Harlem, fusing the beats of hip-hop and James Brown with the melodic elements of R&B. And you can bet that any New Jack Swing song is going to have that bouncy swing rhythm, like we saw in the Mushroom Hill video.
Swing is when it go doom that doom doom that. It's moving. It's moving.
The whole movin' thing is right up Sonic's alley after all. Even the Jacksons got in on the fun, along with Heavy D. Janet's song State of the World shares an orbit of musical influence with Collision Chaos. Collision Chaos features a similar beat so energetic that the song doesn't even need to change chords for all of Section A. But even without chord changes, the melodies do a great job of advancing the journey through use of antecedent consequent phrases, which are fancy terms that just mean unresolved and conclusive. We get the same melody shape twice back to back, with the only difference that the last two notes arrive at a different destination. The first phrase ends on the 5, which doesn't feel resolved. It hints that there's more to come. We can feel that there's more territory to traverse. Then the second run-through brings us back to the 1 for a more satisfying conclusion to this melodic idea. Notice how the majority of notes are duplicated exactly, yet the different destinations give each run-through their own sense of momentum, especially on repeat listens when you know where it's going. While Sonic's scoping out an ideal runway to time travel on, Section C provides the first example of the melodic motif that recurs numerous times throughout the entire Sonic CD soundtrack, a stylish walkdown on the pentatonic scale. As the name suggests, this scale has 5 notes instead of the normal 7. All you do is take the minor scale and eliminate the 2 and 6. This scale has amazing versatility because even though it includes 2 minor notes, it can still definitely work in major keyed songs like Collision Chaos. This scale is one of the first things you learn in guitar lessons, and the list of genres you might find it in indicates its dynamic power. We also see pentatonic walkdowns in Quartz Quadrant, and Metallic Madness. Not to mention Stardust Speedway. It's neat how this melody serves as a constant throughout multiple zones and timelines, something reliable to keep Sonic sane as he tears through the space-time continuum. Because quotes from movies like Primer make it clear that I can imagine no way in which time travel could be considered anywhere remotely close to safe. But Sonic doesn't ask questions. He rolls down the spring yard U-shaped ramps as the pentatonic scale tumbles down with him, and he holds his breath as he heads back in time to the great unknown. Sonic arrives in the past to find the basic skeleton of what the zone would go on to become. In the same way, the song structure is preserved, but it's whittled down to small parts through use of staccato notes, where each note is a quick jab. Because in the standard approach, you sustain each note until the next one occurs. But with staccato, you shorten the duration of each tone so it's followed by a little bit of silence, notated with a dot below or above each note. By isolating instruments, we can hear the Sky Descent melody from before presented in staccato form. And this contrast is especially obvious in comparison to the present version, which had these graceful sustained notes. But the past only has the seedlings of those melodies to come. You'll notice that the swing rhythm is gone too, in favor of standard 4/4. All that fun bounciness is a luxury to enjoy in the modern era, but back here your priority is looking out for T-Rexes. Especially when the bass comes in section B. All the bouncy fun of the present has yet to develop, because in the past the bass just beats at you with this spree of rigid eighth notes. It's such a brutal thumping that it might take multiple playthroughs before you notice that the lead melody is indeed still occurring in the background, with quick staccato notes that almost get lost in the haze of time. Section C has the same pentatonic walkdowns, but they too are relegated to background staccato status. On center stage, we get some downward chromatic motion. Sonic's getting a little loopy on this long search for the robot generator, because the laws of physics know that he doesn't belong in this time era. But soon enough, a horizontal jump off this wall to the aerial badnik combo leads him right to the target. And with a couple bounces on these spring ramps, Sonic zooms to the future to enjoy the fruits of his efforts. What's impressive about the various Good Future renditions is that they don't all follow the same stock template. The first zone, Palm Tree Panic, starts with a conventional approach, with the Good Future pumping the joyful celebration up to 11. Meanwhile, Collision Chaos has a Good Future so surreal and ideal that you're not even sure how to process it. So much so that in these first two intro chords, the first chord is borrowed from minor, and even contains the minor 3 note. The second chord notches up to the major 3 that we'd expect in a Good Future. But it still doesn't give us a straightforward 1 chord, while Sonic's working through the culture shock of this unforeseen future. Here's how these 2 chords sound when Sonic makes his grand entrance. And you can bet swing rhythm is back now that the vibrant future of Spring Yard is secured, especially when you compare the past's rigid eighth notes on bass to the reclaimed agility of the bass here in this glorious utopia. Here in this Good Future, the pentatonic walkdowns are reversed, as Sonic springs upward while the whole world watches. And it gets even more euphoric because we run through it 2 more times with these 2 notes tweaked to the major scale. And hey, there's the major 7th, which we didn't see much of in this zone's previous eras. So it makes a sweet entrance here as if to say, see? Told you it was all gonna be okay. All of this contributes to a posh elegance that you'll see return in Quartz Quadrant. The red carpet's rolled out for the audience to celebrate the new hero of Little Planet. But every now and then, you accidentally brush up against a future sign, And before you know it, it's too late to escape these collision clusters, earning you a one-way ticket to collision landfill. Right away, you know that fun is not allowed in this nightmarish timeline. Robotnik is simply not having any swing rhythm, shackling his employees in the stiff march of standard 4/4. And the pentatonic walkdowns return, but in the context of this track, it almost sounds like they're laughing at you. The good future flipped the pentatonic melodies upward, and the bad future tries to do the same thing, but gets roadblocked at the 4 to have to fall back down. It's impressive how this theme effectively conveys a bad, nightmarish situation, and yet the techno house beats are so infectious, it's enough to make you skip over the robot generator every now and then. Meanwhile, across the Pacific in Bill Clinton's United States, the soundtrack made its way to the ears of a businessman working for Sega of America at the time, who felt the music didn't do a good enough job at maximizing the number of potential buyers in his home country. So after an already hurried development cycle in which one planned zone had to be cut entirely, the decision was made to delay the American release of Sonic CD by 2 additional months to produce a new soundtrack from scratch in a 7-week sprint, with music that even includes shoutouts to the nation's newest state. One case study in these marketability tweaks is the Boss theme. The original soundtrack had this Jet Set Radio banger, boasting a Hall & Oates bass sample and a vocal clip from a George Clinton collaboration track. Meanwhile, the American music mod swaps out that groovy excitement for a percussionless haunted house. It's scary enough to make you soil your pants and stash them under the bed. Not for nothing, it's a good thing the Sonic 3 and Knuckles soundtrack made it to American store shelves intact. Business calculations aside, the resulting soundtrack has a wealth of excellent atmospheric compositions, including Collision Chaos, a level theme that shares influence with Janet Jackson's title track, Control. Gotta love the funk of the syncopated pull on this kick drum right after the snare. Collision Chaos has this similar rhythm structure, an incidental parallel it also shares with the original soundtrack. And the bongo specialist in the background is going nuts in the best way. You think dance bad? Then make sure that bongoist doesn't end up in the bad future, giving the Mad Max drum section a run for their money. But should you make it to the good timeline instead, this cutting-edge future track draws from progressive rock, a genre that takes the blueprint of rock and roll to create compositions with more ambitious complexity, while harnessing technology to generate innovative new sounds. The Rush song Spirit of Radio kicks off with a triumphant guitar line that touches upon the major 3 and 6 on its way up to the top. And with this guitar climb in the Collision Chaos Good Future, the composer may well have had Rush and Yes in the rotation of his teenage album collection. This prog rock touch pushes the boundaries of what rock music can do, just as this future reinvents the premise of a courtyard of springs, both of which were only possible on the Sega CD, with its speedier CPU, 300 times the storage space of a Genesis cartridge, and a price tag equivalent to $600 in today's dollars. So the next time you're in Spring Yard, rediscovering life without the spin dash, just remember, the future is in your hands. Make it happen.